Good afternoon, everybody. Things are a little bit of a mess here, but I just thought I'd want to reach out on kind of a personal, a little bit more tweak you guys on a more of a personal note because we're always talking first thing we talk about the good and bads about cars, but you know what? Why don't I ask this question? What motivates you guys? As you see, the title of the video is what motivates you? What motivates you? I mean, if you look at all those cars back there, see on the rack, I have a bunch of cars, Porsches, Lambos, all kinds of other good stuff up here. There's Ferrari right there. What motivates you? Brandon J says Bills. Hey, right? Yeah, absolutely. Same. Well, we're all motivated by that in some way, for sure. What motivates you? And clearly in the in the context of the automobile world, that's what we're talking about normally, like day to day. I want to keep it somewhat related, but I mean, how did a person get here? What motivates me? Well, I gotta say, I like cars, and cars have always been a motivating factor for me. And motivating. When I say motivating, what do we go to work for? I know this is kind of a weird conversation today, a little bit different. But let's break this down a little bit more personally. What is a motivating factor for people? What motivates you? Like, give that some thoughts there. Kevin's story says your videos motivate me. Right on. I do appreciate that, Kevin. That's awesome. And you know what? And it motivates me to continue making them, knowing that, I've got a lot of great and amazing viewers that constantly keep me coming back, motivate me to get me out of my seat. I mean, a lot of you see when I'm filming, we live in Alberta here and it gets ugly outside. I mean, it's been 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks of minus 25, minus 30. And I still try to get out. It's snowing, it's blizzard, it's minus 20, it's windy, but I'm motivated. I'm motivated in a few ways, primarily to keep consistently delivering some content for you guys. Keep it all coming. Jai Singh says, my father wants your opinion on what do you prefer, Utopia or the Bugatti Chiron? Very cool question. I'm going to go with the Bugatti. I think, I mean, I know it's the name. It's the biggest influencer car. It seems like there's two cars that sort of hit the radar for YouTube influencers. The Bugatti, whether it's, the Chiron or, some of the older content where you hear on some of their older models. But realistically, that or a 911 GT3 RS seems to get a lot of radar, a lot of airtime. And any of these supercars are very motivating. Kim says, hello, all. Welcome, Kim, and thanks for stopping in. 100%. I mean, any of those cars are awesome. You know what? They're all amazing. I wish you could go down to a dealership and test drive everything, but they won't let you. I mean, even to test drive a Ferrari, it's almost impossible unless you find a used one. It's hard to get your hands on something like that. Jai says, and what do you prefer out of a Lamborghini Urus or a Porsche Cayenne GTS? Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I'm personally going to dodge away from anything Rolls-Royce, Bentley. I hate to say even almost McLaren. I love McLaren, but I mean, that's only because that car is so extremes. I would say between those two, what do I like better? I like the Urus better because it's kind of an edgier SUV. But what would I buy? I'd probably buy the Cayenne for a couple of reasons. It's performs equally as well, especially say a Cayenne, say a Turbo S or something like that. The performance levels are pretty comparable. But I mean, a Porsche is a Porsche. They're amazing as far as what they do as the Lambo, but they're on pretty much similar platforms. But the thing is with the Cayenne, you're kind of flying under the radar. And if you're driving a Urus, it's kind of, You know, it's fun to have a Lamborghini, it's fun to have Ferrari and McLarens, and those are amazing. And trust me, they are, and they're all worth it. And that's very motivating for me driving cars like that. But when you're driving an SUV, like most of these, are kind of daily. They're cars that people use usually almost day to work, day to day. You drive to work, take the kids to, to sports, whatever it be. A lot of those vehicles are intended, especially SUVs, intended more for day to day. It's more of a daily used vehicle. And a Lamborghini just, it feels to me like it attracts a little more attention just because of the badging of it. And so it kind of depends, right? To me, I like the Urus better, but I would never buy one, in my own personal opinion. I'd rather get an RSQ8 by Audi to have essentially the same deal, the same performance as the Urus, but I can fly under the radar and I can spend 150K less money. See, because if I'm going to buy a Lambo, I see it like you've got to have the big doors. You've got to have the scissor doors or some kind of fun, loud V10 or V12 engine behind you. That's, in my opinion, where Lamborghini engines belong. And yeah, I mean, they're all amazing, but I would stick with the mid-engine supercars. And I think I've always been sort of that fan, the mid-engine stuff. And that is a big motivating factor for me. And you know what? What motivates you guys? I mean, let's put it this way. What do you guys find especially motivating to go out there and work a little extra overtime, work a little harder, take out a loan, do whatever it takes to buy something, to get something, to acquire something? I mean, what is that motivates you? Is it a fun car? We talk about, obviously, on the channel about reliability, value for the money, used cars, new cars, junk, good stuff. I mean, we talk about all of that, and I think it's all very valid. But it's sometimes nice just to take a little break. And really, when it comes down to it, what do we do any of this for? What do we work for? What do we do any of this for? It's to afford lifestyle and fun and enjoyment. So for me, I dove into the world of fun cars. I indulged in my passions again, as a lot of us kind of do. And I think I want to kind of spread that here because I'm starting to unpeel the layers of the onion, if you will, in my membership space. So if you're a member, you're going to start getting little snippets, clippets, and shorts and videos specifically about what's going on in the background and what I'm doing, and really diving into those passions and those things that motivate us. Because I want to talk about this just for a second. For me, motivating is driving cars, right? Life's too short to drive boring cars. Well, hence I coined the phrase, life's too short to drive boring cars. And I know everybody, kind of asks me and they kind of giggle about it. And they say, well, wait a minute. But you're talking about reliable cars, Hondas and Toyotas, and absolutely. But I mean, there's all varying degrees, right? I mean, a Mazda CX-30 is a fun car. It's a fun little SUV or CUV or whatever. They're fun. And not everybody has $1 million they want to blow on a Ferrari. Some people just, they either don't have it or can't value it, justify it, and they go do something else because to them, they're motivated for what? Taking vacations, maybe travel, hang with the fam. Maybe they have their fun car. Maybe they like motorcycles or boats better. Whatever. Everybody's got kind of something, right? But what motivates you? For me, it's cars. What motivates me, I love cars. And I talk about the simple Toyotas and Hondas, and they can be fun. And that's why I talk about all of it. Because as far as I'm concerned, cars don't have to cost $1 billion. They can be reasonably priced. But the real question is, are they fun? Are they enjoyable? And is there a value add there? Because the way I see this, if you're driving a car that causes you to have to go to the shop all the time, pay the dealers and the network, the mechanics to constantly fix it and troubleshoot it, it's taking the fun. It's taking the value out of that car for you, right? And it doesn't matter if it's a Toyota or a Honda. I mean, a Supra is a fun car, and Hondas drive fun. The Civic R, absolutely fun car. Volkswagen Type R, Golf R, fun car. I mean, these are all fun, hatchy kind of, the GR Corolla, fun car. I mean, every brand has something to offer. And I like to talk about reliability because there's a value there. The value proposition is to enjoy the driving experience, but not be inundated with problems. So that's why I focus on those, because not every day are you taking out your Ferrari for a drive. That's Saturday night car. In actuality, every other day of the week, you're driving your daily. Most people aren't driving an SF90 on a daily basis. So they're probably just driving it on a Saturday night and having to use that Camry or that Lexus or that BMW and use that on a daily basis. So it matters. It really matters how reliable cars are, because that's how we get around. That's how we get to work, to pay for those things that really motivate us, like that Ferrari, like that Lamborghini, you see. And so I'm very motivated in two ways when it comes to cars. One is the pure driving enjoyment, the experience. That's why I say life's too short to drive boring cars. But there's more to it. I'm also motivated by cars that I can get behind, turn the key, go. I can drive 200,000 miles without any much problems. That's motivating to me, to have a car that I can daily drive, get around everywhere I got to be, and not worry about it. See, cars serve a purpose. And to me, I'm all about the value that it adds. See, a Honda Civic adds a certain value, practicality and efficiency. A Lamborghini adds a value, performance and excitement, like a roller coaster ride. They all add a certain value. And I love all the different values that are attributed to driving a car. I appreciate the reliability, and I certainly appreciate the fun. And we look at a couple of comments here. We have Eugene VMLU says, dreams motivate me. Buying my own place, buying a car. For me, putting my son through school. 100%. 100%. You know what? And we talk about essentials. We talk about the, things that really matter. And what matters ultimately is health and family. And first and foremost, those should always be a priority. So taking care of, taking care of personal business and supporting family is always the first agenda. And that's always a motivating factor for everybody. 100%. So that's a great point. Faisal says, "Hi, Mark. Hope you're keeping well, mate. I never take my car to the dealership. They rip you off." Agreed. Normally take my car to my local mechanic, who is very reasonable and honest. Will never go anywhere. Faisal, you make an absolutely amazing point. See, a lot of people kind of bust my balls a lot of times when I'm making videos and I talk about the dealers and how they gouge people. And that's been primarily my experience. See, the problem is what I've found, and I don't want to share, we've got BMWs, we've had BMWs, I still have the one, we got a Benz, Porsche, a few things, got my old Ram and things like that. Now, the problem that I'm faced with now is we don't have a lot of great independent shops in the city that I live in Alberta here. I mean, there are some that specialize, there are these little widget corner shops that say, hey, they fix Mercedes, or these guys fix Volkswagens, or these guys fix BMWs. And I could name drop right now, but I'll tell you right now, without doing that, what I found was some of these little independent shops know exactly what the dealers are charging. I truly believe they cross shop. And at least in our area, they rarely give you any big deals. And what I've found is a lot of these little independents are charging what the dealers are charging. So you're not getting really a lot extra value. Now, you could find that little guy that's, in the back alley that kind of fixes, he just wrenches on everything, and he's a general all-around mechanic. And that's great to have a person like that when you're dealing with, more mainstream vehicles, the Toyotas and the Hondas and a Chevy and a Ford. It's great to have those kind of mechanics around. And they will save you a bunch of money, and definitely avoid the dealers if you can, because they're just greasing you. You can't talk to the mechanic. You can't converse. All you can do is talk to the service writer who tries to translate what you've said and vice versa. And it just usually becomes a mess, and usually overpay and all these other things, shop rates and all this other mumbo jumbo that they gouge you on. Going to a dealer it disconnects and isolates you from the actual experience, and that's trying to communicate your concerns. And rarely does that happen. So what I'm finding in driving BMWs and Mercedes, you want somebody that's more specialized because they need some of those specialized tools, diagnostic equipment. And some of them have it, some of them don't, but they're all charging as much almost as the dealers. I mean, it's just absolutely asinine to me. And that's why, unfortunately, I've kind of struggled. So what ends up happening, I've become a product of my environment, and I end up just half the time, 2/3 of the time, fixing, maintaining my own vehicles. And I always have. I'm a strong DIYer. I've got a video coming up here in a week or two, and a lot of you know that our Mercedes C300 has been, slightly problematic, and I'll just leave it on that for now. But what I did was I'm going to, because our warranty and our maintenance package that came from the dealer and originally was part of the purchase, it's pretty much expired now. So I'm going to dive in and I'm going to start doing my own maintenance. And I just did a video with a DIY on the bigger service, the service for the W205 Mercedes, the C300. Ours is a 2018. So if you're interested in any way, shape, or form and looking at what it takes to maintain these vehicles, just know that I've got one coming up. It's the bigger service. It includes the engine oil and oil filter, which I demonstrate, air filter I demonstrate. I discuss the type of oil you need. I also show how the dealers kind of usually do your oil changes, which is usually from the top, but I demonstrate it that way. It also required, my car didn't because of the mileage, but ultimately a transmission service, as well as a cabin air filter, tire rotation, and key fob battery change. Those are the major elements of that service. And I demonstrated a few of them, and the rest I at least just touched on. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do more of that because I've often found myself just fixing my own stuff. And unfortunately, I haven't built the relationship with the independent shops to find somebody that I'm comfortable with here locally. And so what I end up doing is I just fix it myself. And if it's absolutely off the rails, that probably 1 or 2 out of 10 times that it needs a repair, well, then I go to the dealer because that's who you know. But anyway, Scott Medlin says, does BMW produce any stick shifts these days? Yeah, I believe the M2 is still available, as well as I think M3, M4, where you could still get as an optional manual. They generally come with the DCT. But I believe you can still get the manual in a few BMWs, the M cars only though. You won't find it in a regular, like a 340 or a 330 or a 4 Series or 5 Series or none of those. You won't find it anywhere there. I think it's sort of limited to the M2, 3, and 4s. You can still find them there. I believe you can still order them that way, but good luck. Like, they're kind of rare and it's hard, but I would definitely, I think that's still a fun way to go for a keeper car. It simplifies the ownership experience. The DCTs haven't been particularly problematic. Neither have the ZF8 speeds that go in a lot of these cars. But I mean, having a manual is often a very fun experience. So yeah, I mean, and that does motivate a person, driving fun cars like that. So yeah, I mean, the big thing I just want to touch on, the idea of what motivates you. I mean, is there, specific cars or, is there, anything else? Like what motivates you out there? For me, my motivating factor is the last 3 years when I went car shopping. I finally I was looking at stats, specs. I had a chance. It wasn't actually available in the showroom yet, so I was able to look around. I kind of compared numbers and specs and stats, and at the time, I looked at what all the brands had, and I found something that really, really tweaked me. And so here we are. We're 3 years later, well, almost 3 years later. That was in, I believe it was May of 3 years ago. That would have been May of 22. I walked into the showroom. I sniffed around. I did a first pass on a build, doing electronically with the salesperson. And we sat down and we walked through it and we did a build, and we did a course version of it, got a rough number, and then basically dropped a deposit and said, yeah, I'll take one. But the problem is it takes forever to get those cars. And so we're 3 years in, well, almost 3 years. Again, as of May, it'll be 3 years in. and we're actually expecting to receive the car. The car is at the dealership now as we speak. As we speak, the car has landed. It's come. It's basically was prepped at its first point, I'll just say in North America. And then it was prepped there. Then it's being prepped right now at the dealer, and it's getting full PPF. I'm putting paint protection film on it, corner to corner, top to bottom, going with the 11 mil. And I want to share that experience, and I want to share some of the features, the options, and I want to share how I got to that, why I picked what I did. And I'm going to go through that whole car when I get it, and it's there, it's ready. It's basically waiting for a nice day, maybe within the next week or 2 weeks. I got to drive down there and make the rest of the payment, finalize the numbers, put it all together, have it all done up, and basically they're going to ship it out. They're going to ship it to me, bring it to my house, because obviously can't drive it on these roads. I am super stoked. And when you say, that's why I want to talk about what motivates a person. This is extremely motivating for me, and it has been motivating for the last 3 years, trust me, to keep, just focusing on the things that drive me. And this is one of them. So Blue Moon, hello, everyone. Welcome there, Blue Moon. I just got back from visit back home from England. Used cars are so cheap and so many EVs. Yeah, EVs for sure. I've heard the used market on EVs is super cheap. And I actually am doing a video on that too. So I want to talk about that, but I've got a video. I actually filmed it already. It's in the hopper. And I do believe I talk about why used EVs are so cheap. And let me just find out exactly when that's coming out, because I can share that with you right now. See, there's my information right there. And I want to find out when I'm going to release that video in case anybody cares, or if anybody's interested in seeing why they're so cheap. I get into that. And that video is coming out in, when is that? Right there. It is featuring February 22nd. So put that on your calendar, February 22nd. If you're curious as to why these EVs are so cheap, and specifically even more so Teslas. Faisal says, Mark, what is your opinion in terms of reliability regarding Alfa Romeo Giulia? I have heard numerous independent reviews stating quality control is improving. I mean, that's everything I've heard too. I honestly, you're going to get all the big mainstream. I'm going to say it. I don't want to go there, but mainstream media, I guess, the news, the reviewers are going to just throw it under the bus. I'll be honest, my experience with some of the German imports, these are the German luxury cars these days, is not spectacular. And I would say, from what I understand, and numerous people I've spoke to who owns them and have owned them, and I know somebody who's also got a Stelvio, which is the SUV, basically same thing. Reliability is pretty solid on them, actually. The problem where people get caught up is letting them sit too long and the batteries drain, because they're not driving them like a Civic and where they're getting in and just banging around and booting and putting miles on every single day. Most people will be selective on how many miles they put on and how much they drive them. So drawing down the battery will all of a sudden ignite electronic failures. And that seems to be the most common issue is things related to electrics and some of that. I think there was a mains issue. Some of the power, some of the main power channels were a problem there for a while, but it sounds like it's not really out of the ordinary, based on almost anything else I've heard. Mechanically, if you're talking about a ZF 8-speed, spectacular gearbox, nothing wrong there. The engines are durable. It's really not a car to hate on. The only thing that's going to be tough about them is watching the depreciation just sink. That's the catch. And unfortunately, I truly believe that some of the bad press on these cars is what's dragging down the value. And of course, the network of dealers is not that, there's not that much, it's not that prevalent. So it's hard to service these vehicles. The bad press kind of doesn't help them all that much. They're trying to break into the North American market, but they haven't done that well. So it's a tough one. It's an uphill battle. I think they're great cars. I would seriously look at buying an Alfa. I love them. I'd love to get a Quadrifoglio Giulia, but that's only rear-wheel drive. You have to go to Stelvio Quad to get the all-wheel drive, but I don't want the SUV. I'd rather have the car, kind of get the gist. I think they're wonderful cars. I love them personally. I think they're anything kind of Italian. I know I'm going to get my balls busted on this one. You know, Maseratis and Alphas. Maseratis can be problematic. They can be a lot more expensive. Depends on the model. Depends on the years. Very expensive. I mean, now you're kind of banging hips there with Ferrari, so you're going to expect even much higher service costs, and depreciation is going to fall off a cliff on those. But Alphas, I mean, I don't know. I would consider buying one 100%. Jai says life's too short to drive boring cars 100%. And in the membership crew there, everybody's going to find out real soon the type of car that I've selected to knock the rust of boredom out of my life. So I certainly don't want to be bored, and I certainly want to have a fun car for this summer. Life is too short to not enjoy the passions and the things that we get motivated by. So that's why I want to kind of drop that nugget. Blue Moon, let me just see. Okay, no, sorry, I got that one already. Dave Knight. Hi, my 78 Camino motivates me to race small turbo cars at stoplights. Absolutely. You know what? It's probably fun to even whoop some of the so-called sporty cars that are, you know, have a label as a sports car, and a lot of them get roasted by some of the old V8 engines. And you know what? That could be fun. I could absolutely get behind that too. That'd be fun. So I can see that. Blue Moon, Alpha must have deep pockets regardless. Well, yeah, I mean, depreciation, maintenance costs. Again, you're still in the same shop as Maserati in most cases. And service costs are going to be higher. Parts are going to be more expensive. And it's all of that. It's not going to be cheaper, put it that way. So I would agree with that. Fuel prices increase. Jai saying, will they increase when 2030, 35 ban on ICE cars takes place? I would say there's a high probability of that. We're seeing that already too, though. I mean, even with the talk of these tariffs that are blasting us right now, the idea that this back and forth battle between oil, gas, energy, and flip-flopping and everything else, it seems to be having a major impact on the cost of living as a whole. Gas prices are going to continue to climb. Now, I know they removed the mandate in the U.S. Current administration did that. And so the push to have an electric car by those years, maybe less of a motivator. Certainly in the U.S., I think there's a lot of people that are going to look more at, yeah, I'll stick with the ICE. But I think it's not going to ever get cheaper. I think there's going to be this constant underlying motivation to push people into cleaner fuel sources. Hydrogen's still not working very well. You know, I think in Europe, there's a much stronger, they're certainly more advanced in the adoption of EVs, and those mandates will essentially drive gas prices up. I would almost guarantee it. I think in North America, we're going to see a gradual increase. It's been going up. I mean, we're seeing diesel prices now. I mean, diesel is a byproduct originally, right? And even the ULSD, the ultra low sulfur diesel, even to process that, it's still substantially less than it would be to, you know, to manufacture, you know, gas, premium fuel for your car. And yet diesel prices are higher. Why? Well, it's dirty, and I mean, they're using it commercially, so they gouge, right? It's about gouging the big trucks and the buses, but they can and they will and they do. And then we're going to see that with gas prices too, I think. Blue Moon says maintenance is not cheap, parts, etc. That's where people stumble, I think. Yeah, I would agree. Like, maintenance isn't cheap, and I think that's on everything nowadays, sadly. And I know some of the justification on the electric cars is that you don't have to do maintenance. It's cheap. But you pay more for a car that's kind of equivalent, right? I mean, you could get a new Accord or a new Camry, which is similar to a base Tesla Model 3, but you pay more for the Tesla. So even if you're saving, you know, $2,000-3,000 in oil changes over a 10-year time frame, you've more than spent that on the cost of that brand new EV. So yeah, I mean, there's ways to look at it. ICE, as long as we can hold on to it. Blue Moon says diesel is still popular in England. Kia Stinger, 3-liter turbo diesel. Gotta like the Stinger. I think they're cool. They're still cool. They haven't really rubbed off on the wrong way yet for me. I like the Stinger. Ranger Raptor, 3-liter turbo diesel too. Can't go wrong there. I like the Ranger Raptor. Looks cool. I'm not gonna lie. I love all the Raptors actually. I think that's my fave. The not just the Ranger, but the F-150, the Raptor, the F Series Raptor. Such a cool truck, but they're just overpriced, like everything, right? Just grossly overpriced. But Asher McCullough says, "I'm never buying a new car too expensive." Asher, 100% behind you on that. I did buy this new car, and that's the first new car I've ever owned. This car that I'm landing. Again, if you want to see more, join the membership, guys, gals, you name it. Anybody curious to see, I'm going to slowly trickle in hints and details, and I'm going to share all of that experience as I receive the car, and I'm going to talk about the highlights of it, and we're going to get more of that. But I'm going to keep that behind the membership space so we all have something common, something that we love, and that's a motivator for me is the fun car. So that's why I want to kind of cover that in the membership area. But that's the only new car I have ever purchased in my life, because I see buying a new daily driver getting beat up by salty gravel roads here that we get. And these nice shiny cars, you take it out for a day and it's all splattered with salt and slop. It's just it hurts, and then the depreciation hurts, and then you're paying that premium for a warranty, and the warranty's gone in 2 to 3 years, and the dealers don't want to. They're gonna push back anyway. And the motivating factor for a lot of people to get new cars is to get that warranty. But a lot of times these dealers find nooks and crannies to dodge and weave. And I don't know. I'd much rather find a 2, 3, 4-year-old car with maybe 30, 40,000 miles on it and get that for 60%, 70% of the price. That's where I'd rather be. That's usually where we get into it. What do we got here? Farrell says electric cars are neglected a bit better than ICE cars. Sit neglected a bit better than ICE cars. Also, my GLK 250 is a good diesel. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, 100%. And Asher says I can't be motivated when I just see unreachable price. Yeah, I totally get you. I really do. When I look at the price of a new truck here in Canada, I go down to the car lots, and you'll see on Easy Car Buying is my other channel. And I really just talk about these prices all the time. And I'm really focused on the pricing aspect of the car dealership experience. And it's just obscene. $90,000, $100,000 for a truck, for a half-ton truck. It's just obscene. So very demotivating is what I would say. I would agree with that. BG says, stop me from impulse buying a 2007 Yaris for neighborhood laundry. I'm not going to stop you. Go ahead and do it. I bought that 2002 RAV4 for my daughter. And hopefully I feature that on the channel sometime sooner than later, but we'll get to that here probably once the weather smartens up a bit. No, go for it, man. That's what we need, is something reliable and simple and cost effective. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you all have a wonderful long weekend. I just want to touch base, say hi to everybody, and glad so much that you've all been supportive to the channel thus far. It's been wonderful. OGs, NGs, whatever you want to say. You guys are all my fave, honestly. You guys, all of you are the ones that keep me motivated. You all keep me very motivated to keep on going. Did you realize, special, right off the top, I got a note from YouTube today that this is my 10-year anniversary. That's right, 10 years doing exotic car play place. 10 years. Farrell, thanks so much, Farrell. And that Model 3 lease is attractive. Yeah, absolutely. 10 years doing this. I feel, if you look at my old videos, way back, filter and look at my first videos, they were pretty rough and pretty sad. But some of them were fun. There were some nice cars in there. So they're definitely good for some eye candy. Faisal says, take care, Mark. Enjoy the weekend. Thanks, Faisal. And thank you again, everybody, so much. If you want to see what my new car is going to be about, check it out. Membership page. Small cost. I'll also prioritize your questions, concerns, if you have any of that. And I'll definitely get as best I can to answer all of your questions. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. See you all real soon. Bye-bye.